I was a pole vaulter on the varsity track team at Brown. I did track for about 7 years of my life, 3 of which were at the NCAA Division I collegiate level. I've learned a lot from my experience as a student athlete competing at this level. Some of these learnings I didn't fully appreciate until I was a few years removed from my track experience. Today I'll be sharing what I've learned and the challenges I've overcome, most of which no one talked about openly, and I only learned when I was in the environment and observing the aspects of life as a student athlete. So if you want to learn about the effects of doing athletics at a D1 level post-graduating, then keep on watching. To me, the best takeaway from pursuing collegiate athletics is how in tune I am with my body. When I'm working out, I generally have a pretty good sense of discomfort versus pain. I know when I'm at risk of getting injured, and this is largely because I was trained by a weight training coach on how to do different types of Olympic lifts with proper form. So I generally feel pretty safe in the gym, or even if I'm trying out different athletic activities. Whenever I'm working out in the gym, I generally know how to have proper form and which muscles to engage. Also, because I did years of physical therapy, a little bit in high school, a little bit in college, and a lot in post-college, whenever an old problem area starts to hurt again, I have a pretty decent sense of which muscles I need to strengthen to support that old injury. There might be two sides to this, because if I didn't do track, I wouldn't have these injuries, but I also feel like we get injured throughout our lives doing the different activities we do. So it's nice that whenever something flares up again, I know how to take care of myself to erase the pain. Also, when you're training at a high level, you naturally learn how to fuel your body well too. I learned how to eat healthy and nutritious foods, and believe it or not, my taste buds have also evolved to enjoy these types of foods. I generally eat pretty healthy now because I can feel how my body feels different. It feels subpar when I go through long stretches of time where I'm not eating healthy foods. And this is compared to me in middle school or high school when I could eat like burgers for a week and probably not feel any different. But I will say I don't follow diets because I don't like to restrict myself in what I can or can't eat. I know based off of previous patterns that when I restrict myself, I just end up overeating what I was restricting myself from. So if I want something, I'll just eat it, I won't think about it, and I'll overall be happier. If I want to get into a certain shape, granted I'm never extreme about it, but I generally know what types of foods I have to eat and how much activity I have to do a day for me to get to the point I want to be. One of the privileges I didn't fully appreciate until a little bit later is the opportunity for competition. I learned how to channel anxiety around competition into energy that helps me execute. My coach used to say that it's such a privilege to compete at the collegiate level. I realized that that's such a powerful mindset shift, especially when approaching anything that gives me nerves when I have to perform. There's something really energizing about feeling the nerves before a competition, being able to channel those nerves into energy, clearing your mind, and then just executing. This generally comes after weeks, maybe months, maybe even years of preparing for something. But I generally feel this right before a competition, maybe even a speech or a presentation. Feeling those nerves is something that pushes me to do my best. And not to say I don't choke, because that's definitely happened before. But overall, I embrace the stress in those short periods of time. I think this competition experience has shaped a lot of my personal growth, my resilience, my confidence, among many things. I used to have that competition experience on a weekly basis, but now it's quite rare when I am in that type of environment. Track also really helps me learn how to prioritize. On the track team, we started training the first day of school all the way to the springtime around finals because there was indoor and outdoor season. During the off season, as we were gearing up for competition, I would spend generally 2 to 3 hours a day dedicated to track. And this was prehabbing with the trainer, this was warm-ups, the workout, the lift after the workout, and then cool down. Also the shower too. That generally happened 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Then during the competition season, it was 5 days a week, then one dedicated weekend day to competition. I also studied computer science at Brown. Many of my teammates were also in really difficult STEM fields as well. A large majority were pre-med. A not insignificant number of people were also in computer science. I personally struggled in my computer science classes. I had to push through them. With my track schedule on top of that, I had to definitely learn how to prioritize my time. In school, I always felt like there was more I could study, or there was always a new project I could be working on. And certainly since then, I have learned how to work more efficiently. I'm also physically less tired because my muscles are not constantly recuperating. But even still, I learned pretty early on how to be very intentional with my time. And that's still something that I am continuously honing and working on today. Overall, one aspect of being out of school that I really enjoy is that when I am done with work, I can just not think about it anymore. Now I don't feel as physically tired because I'm not constantly pushing my body, and I'm also getting enough sleep. I'm still working on other things outside of my 9 to 5, like YouTube and castings and photo shoots as a model. I think having had the experience of juggling all these things in college made it a pretty seamless transition to picking up these different hobbies of mine. Now let's talk about the challenges. Body issues are definitely a thing. This might be the experience of more women than men, maybe, I'm not sure. It might also range depending on the sport. There are weight-specific sports like wrestling or crew. I think unless the coaching staff has done a very explicit job of cultivating a healthy team dynamic around body positivity, there's generally pressure coming from all different directions when it comes to matters around the body. I've seen coaches tell their athletes to eat less while they're injured because they're not working out as much and they need to stay in shape. I've also seen a coach weigh their athlete for a sport where weight is not even a factor in whether the athlete can compete or not. I get the sense that questionable coaches are not rare. Every few years, there's a coach who's widely known to be quite toxic, at our school, at least. One coach I'm thinking of was very sharp with her words, and that's putting it lightly. Even athletes at other Ivies knew of her, specifically for the comments she would make about her athletes' bodies. I had two friends from two different schools who played the sport she coached, and they both knew her reputation. Even if you don't have a coach saying or doing questionable things, sometimes it can be self-inflicted pressure too. You might see the best performing athletes on a team have a certain body type, and depending on the sport, that body type might generally be a thinner build. And if you don't have that body type and you're desperate to perform well, then you might also start wondering if you should work toward having a thinner build too. I've definitely had those thoughts, and I've seen many women's bodies change over the 3 years I was on track. Only they know for themselves if it was done in a healthy way, but that's still something to think about also. Sometimes the training plan doesn't work with your body, especially mixed with the food that we have access to in the dining hall. I was lifting really heavy as part of the training plan in college, and I got quite bulky. It wasn't until over a year into the training plan I kind of realized that I couldn't jump as high as I knew I could because I was carrying a lot of weight and muscle. All of these things I observed at an Ivy League where there is no sport scholarship awarded. Still, everyone was super motivated to perform their best, and I can't imagine how that dynamic would have changed at another school if an athlete has to think about performing well because they want to keep their scholarship. And nobody really talks about how at the collegiate level, maybe even the elite high school level, I would say 95% of athletes are nursing an injury. Either an ongoing injury or just keeping an eye on an old injury and making sure that it doesn't flare up again. This is especially the case near the end of a season when we've been performing at competition level for months on end. Anytime I see an athlete competing at a high level, whether that's collegiate or professional, I know that their bodies are probably hurting. They either push through the pain or the adrenaline covers it up during competition. I did have lasting injuries. I did about 8 months of physical therapy once I graduated because I finally had insurance and time to focus on getting better. The most prominent injury I have is a stress fracture in my lower back, and now I just keep a strong core to keep the pain away. But a lot of these injuries, I had shin problems, knee problems, they were all injuries I was nursing while I was competing. So would I do it again? Ultimately, I would choose to get recruited again. Partly for the relationships. I immediately felt very taken care of matriculating as a first year. I realized that that was very special and I was very lucky because sometimes it takes a little bit time for first years to feel comfortable and find their people. I met a lot of really cool people I very much respected and looked up to. I made a lot of great friendships through track, and these are people I still keep in touch with. I also learned a lot about myself. I gained a lot of confidence. I think the only thing is I might have quit earlier. I knew going into Brown for a variety of reasons that I would not be pursuing track at a level higher than collegiate athletics. So once I got everything I wanted out of it, I probably should have walked away. And I think for me, that was around the 2.5 year mark. I think I would have really enjoyed having a regular student experience and taking more advantage of what the school had to offer. I feel like I didn't fully get to explore everything I wanted to. I've heard of some schools even letting student athletes take a 5th year to have that regular student experience. And the one that comes to mind is UCLA, but I don't know if they still do that. So those are my insights as a former D1 varsity student athlete. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you're thinking about getting recruited, I talk all about my recruiting experience, the timelines, and what I prepared in this video right here.